May 2nd, 1965. A dense layer of morning fog hung over the jungle trails of South Vietnam. U.S. soldiers, sweating through the oppressive heat, pressed forward, rifles in hand, boots sinking into mud so thick it clung to everything. They moved cautiously, acutely aware that the slightest misstep could mean death. But for many, it wasn't just the enemy hiding in the tangled foliage that posed the greatest threat. It was their own weapon. The M16, America's standard-issue rifle, had long been considered a symbol of military strength. Chambered in .308 Winchester, it was powerful, accurate, and lethal. On paper, it seemed unstoppable. In reality, the combination of relentless humidity, rain-soaked earth, and ceaseless jungle debris turned it into a liability. Rifles jammed, bullets misfired, and soldiers who depended on the very tools meant to protect them suddenly found themselves helpless in firefights that could mean the difference between life and death. Reports trickled back from the front lines. Rifle jams after 50 rounds. Soldiers forced to clear under enemy fire. One unit lost half its combat efficiency due to weapons malfunction. Commanders were baffled. They had invested in a proven system, yet the jungle seemed to have its own rules, ones that American weapons engineers hadn't fully anticipated. This was the crucible that would birth a revolution in small arms, design a weapon lighter than the M16, faster to operate, and capable of functioning in the harshest conditions imaginable. Soldiers needed a rifle that could survive what the jungle threw at it: mud, humidity, rain, and the ceaseless grind of constant combat. But nobody could have predicted just how radical the solution would be. A rifle that didn't rely solely on steel. One that incorporated aluminum, synthetic materials, and a revolutionary gas system. And while generals in Washington debated logistics, engineers on the other side of the country were quietly changing the rules of warfare. In the next few years, their work would culminate in a rifle that would come to define the American soldier in Vietnam, and eventually, the modern battlefield itself. To understand the M16, it's essential to understand what came before. The M14 was a product of post-World War II design philosophy, blending lessons learned in Europe and Korea. It was a full-power rifle with tremendous range and stopping power, chambered for the 7.62x5.1 mm NATO round. On the parade ground, it was flawless, deadly accurate at 600 meters, capable of punching through cover, and robust enough to withstand months of use without much maintenance. But the jungle was not the parade ground. In Vietnam, soldiers weren't marching in neat lines. They were crawling, sprinting, and wading through streams, constantly exposed to the elements. Rain-soaked uniforms, sweat-soaked gear, and mud caked into every nook of the rifle. The M14's wooden stock absorbed moisture, swelling and warping, throwing off its zero. Its 9.5-pound weight, combined with a heavy steel receiver and full-power cartridge, made it cumbersome in close quarters. Soldiers often complained that it was exhausting to carry, let alone fire accurately under fire. Then there was the maintenance problem. The M14 required rigorous cleaning to remain reliable. Every layer of mud or grime had the potential to jam the action. And in the heat of combat, under ambush conditions, meticulous cleaning was a luxury that soldiers rarely had time for. A jammed rifle could turn a firefight into a tragedy. Commanders recognized the problem early. In 1963, small units began testing lighter rifles chambered in smaller calibers. The goal was clear. Give the soldier a weapon he could carry across miles of jungle, one that could fire rapidly, withstand abuse, and require minimal maintenance. Yet many traditionalists resisted the change. After all, they argued, nothing could replace the power and reliability of a full-size battle rifle. This resistance was part of what makes the M16 story so remarkable. It wasn't just a technical innovation. It was a challenge to conventional military thinking. America needed a weapon that defied established norms, A rifle that would be lighter than any previous service weapon, yet just as effective. It had to work when everything else failed. When mud filled the chamber, when sweat ran down the barrel, when a soldier's life depended on a trigger pull and nothing else. And so, in the late 1950s, across the country, in small workshops and testing facilities, engineers began experimenting with something that seemed almost unthinkable. Aluminum receivers, synthetic stocks, a new small caliber cartridge that would allow for controllable automatic fire, all innovations designed for one purpose: survival in the jungle. They were betting on a rifle that, on paper, looked fragile, unconventional, even risky. But sometimes, the most radical ideas are the ones that succeed. By the time the first soldiers stepped into the Vietnamese jungle with the new rifle in 1965, they were about to discover that the M16 wasn't just a tool. It was a lifeline, a weapon that could change the course of firefights, save countless lives, and eventually redefine what it meant to be a soldier in modern combat. The year was 1957, and in a quiet California laboratory, a young engineer named Eugene Stoner stared at a blueprint that would eventually change modern warfare. Stoner wasn't a soldier. He didn't spend months crawling through mud under enemy fire. But he understood something. Soldiers knew instinctively. Weight mattered. Reliability mattered. And firepower had to be controllable. Stoner's design was radical. Unlike the heavy M14, his rifle utilized an aluminum receiver, reducing the weapon's weight by nearly 40%. Instead of a full-power round that recoiled violently, he chose the 5.56 x 4.5 mm cartridge, a smaller, high-velocity round that allowed for accurate, rapid fire in the hands of an individual soldier. The bolt and gas system were reimagined to function with less cleaning, less lubrication, and fewer moving parts. In essence, he was building a rifle that could forgive the chaos of combat instead of demanding perfection from its operator. Critics were skeptical. A rifle this light, this caliber? Soldiers will laugh it off. It won't stop a man in combat, argued traditionalists in the Pentagon. But Stoner and his team pressed on, confident that weight, volume of fire, and controllability would matter more than raw kinetic energy in the dense jungles of Southeast Asia. By 1959, prototypes of the AR-15 Stoner's design were rolling off the production line. Early testing revealed what engineers had hoped. The rifle was remarkably easy to handle, even in rapid automatic fire. Its modular design meant that field repairs were simplified, and the combination of lightweight construction with a high-velocity round allowed soldiers to carry more ammunition without fatigue. Yet there was one major hurdle. The military wanted to know whether this rifle could survive the very environment that had crippled the M14. Could it fire after hours in mud, rain, and humidity? Could it endure months of constant abuse without jamming? These questions would determine whether Stoner's invention was a novelty or a revolution. In early 1963, the U.S. Army sent Stoner's rifles to Southeast Asia for field testing. Soldiers stationed near the Mekong Delta received the first experimental AR-15 seconds, and within days, the rifles faced the ultimate test: the jungle itself. Streams of rain fell every afternoon, mud clung to every surface, and the combination of tropical heat and sweat created a corrosive environment that would stop almost any conventional weapon in its tracks. Initial reports were encouraging, yet the resistance within military leadership remained fierce. Field commanders accustomed to the stopping power of the M14 were skeptical of a lightweight rifle firing what they considered a toothpick caliber. "This thing won't penetrate trees, let alone an enemy's chest," one colonel complained in a classified memo. But the soldiers told a different story. Private letters and field reports poured in. Soldiers praised the AR-15 for its ease of handling in close combat, its lightweight design for long patrols, and its unprecedented reliability in conditions that had turned M14s into useless pieces of steel. One platoon leader wrote, "I ran my rifle through rivers, mud, and 10 days without cleaning. Not a single jam. I don't know how they did it, but this thing works." The results of these trials sent shockwaves through small units. The rifle's gas-operated, rotating bolt system allowed spent cartridges to eject cleanly, even when the chamber was coated with grime. Aluminum and synthetic components resisted swelling and warping, while the high-velocity 5.56mm round maintained accuracy over ranges soldiers actually fought at typically under 300 meters. Despite the positive feedback, bureaucratic hurdles remained. Traditionalists in the Pentagon continued to argue for proven designs. It took years of reports, demonstrations, and even direct intervention from Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara before the AR-15's military adoption gained momentum. By the time the first M16 rifles were officially approved for widespread deployment in 1965, the U.S. Army had a weapon that combined radical engineering with practical battlefield reliability, finally giving soldiers the edge they desperately needed in Vietnam's unforgiving jungle. By mid-1965, the first American combat units equipped with the M16 were arriving in Vietnam. Soldiers who had trained with the M14 were uneasy about the lightweight rifles slung across their chests. Some questioned whether a 5.56mm round could stop a determined enemy, while others worried about potential mechanical failures in the oppressive jungle climate. The reality of combat quickly answered those questions, but not always in the way anyone expected. In firefights along the dense Mekong Delta and the rugged Central Highlands, the M16's lighter weight allowed soldiers to maneuver faster, carry extra ammunition, and engage multiple targets with less fatigue. Its semi-automatic and 3-round burst settings provided flexibility. Troops could conserve ammo or unleash controlled fire when pinned down, but early deployment revealed unexpected challenges. Many rifles arrived without proper cleaning kits, and soldiers unfamiliar with the new maintenance procedures experienced jams and malfunctions. The rifle's chrome-plated chamber and barrel, designed to resist corrosion, could not compensate for a lack of lubrication or improper handling. Initial casualty reports and equipment complaints fueled criticism in Washington, with congressional hearings questioning whether Stoner's rifle had been rushed into service. Field adjustments and training changes began to resolve these issues. Units learned to strip and clean the rifle regularly, carry spare parts, and apply proper lubrication even in sweltering heat. Within months, the M16 transformed from a controversial experiment into a reliable weapon that could fire thousands of rounds without failure. Soldiers began referring to it not just as a rifle, but as a lifeline. The Vietnam War forced rapid innovation. Engineers at Colt and the Army's Springfield Armory continued refining the M16 under battlefield conditions. A chrome-lined barrel became standard to prevent rust and improve durability. The buffer system was improved to reduce the risk of jamming during sustained fire. Every minor modification reflected lessons learned in the field. Soldiers' survival depended on the rifle performing flawlessly under extreme conditions. The psychological impact of the M16 cannot be overstated. Soldiers equipped with the rifle could move with confidence through the jungle, knowing their weapon would function reliably even in mud, rain, or sweltering heat. Patrols became more aggressive, ambushes more effective, and small unit tactics increasingly relied on the combination of mobility and sustained firepower the M16 provided. By 1967, the M16 had gained a reputation not just for its engineering, but for its transformative effect on combat doctrine. Platoons could engage larger enemy forces with precision and coordination previously impossible, with heavier, slower-firing rifles. The jungle had become a proving ground, demonstrating that a rifle designed for adaptability and reliability could overcome even the harshest environmental challenges. By 1968, the M16 had fully integrated into American infantry units across Vietnam. Its lightweight design and rapid-fire capability allowed soldiers to move swiftly through dense jungle trails, ambush enemy positions, and maintained sustained engagements where heavier rifles would have slowed them down. Platoon leaders quickly realized that the rifle was more than a tool, it reshaped jungle combat itself. Small unit tactics evolved around the rifle's unique capabilities. Soldiers could carry more rounds, traverse difficult terrain, and maintain suppressive fire longer. Patrols coordinated maneuvers using the rifle's accuracy at medium ranges, while the burst fire option allowed troops to respond quickly when encountering larger enemy squads. Jungle choke points, previously considered defensive strongholds, could now be breached with coordinated, precise volleys. Vietnamese forces soon recognized the new threat. The M16's high rate of fire, coupled with American mobility, forced Viet Cong units to adapt. Ambushes became riskier, and infiltration tactics required greater stealth. Yet the jungle environment still presented challenges. Torrential rains, humidity, and mud tested both the soldiers and their weapons daily. The M16 proved resilient, but only when soldiers adhered strictly to maintenance routines. The rifle's psychological impact was equally profound. Soldiers who had once relied on heavier rifles began to feel unshackled. The confidence in their weapon allowed for daring maneuvers, rapid flanking movements, and a sense of security even when outnumbered. Commanders began designing operations specifically to exploit the M16's combination of firepower and mobility, turning what had been a disadvantageous terrain into a tactical playground. Despite its battlefield advantages, the M16 remained a lightning rod for controversy. Early reports of malfunctions had fueled skepticism in Washington, and critics continued to question the rifle's reliability under extreme conditions. Yet by late 1968, after rigorous training adjustments and design improvements, the M16's true potential became undeniable. In engagements from the Mekong Delta to the Ia Drang Valley, soldiers wielding the M16 achieved results that reshaped military thinking. Units armed with the rifle demonstrated faster reaction times, higher survivability, and greater operational flexibility. The light, accurate rifle enabled coordinated platoon maneuvers that left heavier, slower rifles, and even some armored units struggling to respond. Innovation continued alongside combat experience. Colt engineers implemented chrome-plated chambers, redesigned buffers, and refined magazine construction, addressing malfunctions and extending durability. Every improvement was informed directly by reports from the front lines, creating a feedback loop of field-tested engineering. By the end of 1968, the M16 had not only survived the jungle, it had redefined it. The rifle's influence went beyond individual engagements. It shaped operational planning, altered enemy expectations, and cemented its place as a revolutionary weapon of war. American forces had learned a critical lesson. In Vietnam, survival was not just about firepower. It was about adaptability, innovation, and the ability to move with confidence through the unforgiving terrain of the jungle. The year 1969 marked the M16's defining moments in the crucible of Vietnam's largest battles. From the dense Mekong Delta to the rugged highlands, the rifle was tested under the most extreme conditions. During the Battle of Hamburger Hill, soldiers armed with M16s demonstrated the rifle's combination of accuracy and sustained firepower, enabling platoons to suppress entrenched Viet Cong positions while maneuvering through steep, jungle-clad terrain. The rifle's lightweight frame allowed troops to carry extra ammunition, grenades, and essential supplies, turning what had once been grueling uphill assaults into coordinated, mobile strikes. Infantry units could now provide covering fire at medium ranges while advancing through areas previously deemed impassable. Commanders marveled at how the weapon's design amplified small unit effectiveness, effectively turning squads into self-contained combat networks. Beyond tactical advantages, the M16 reshaped the psychological battlefield. American soldiers felt emboldened by the reliability and lethality of their rifles, while enemy forces quickly learned that ambushes against well-armed troops were increasingly deadly. Entire engagements were won or lost not by numbers or terrain, but by the ability to rapidly deliver precise, sustained fire, a capability the M16 had made standard. Simultaneously, data from these battles informed ongoing improvements. Engineers incorporated lessons from combat, reinforced magazine lips, improved cleaning kits, and updated training manuals emphasizing field maintenance. The M16 evolved in real time, its design shaped directly by the men who depended on it in the jungles of Vietnam. By the early 1970s, the M16 had cemented its place as one of the most transformative rifles in military history. Its combination of lightweight design, high rate of fire, and adaptability to hostile environments became the benchmark for modern infantry weapons. Soldiers who had once struggled with heavier, slower rifles now operated with unprecedented agility and confidence, redefining infantry tactics in jungle warfare. The rifle's legacy extended beyond Vietnam. Lessons learned about reliability, modularity, and field maintenance informed future generations of U.S. military firearms, from the M4 carbine to specialized urban and mountain rifles. The M16's innovations influenced NATO allies and even shaped adversary designs, as the principles of lightweight, high capacity, and maintainable rifles became global military standards. Equally significant was the strategic lesson the M16 imparted. Technological superiority does not rely solely on firepower or armor. It depends on adaptability, reliability, and the ability to function in the most extreme conditions. The rifle demonstrated that thoughtful design, informed by real-world combat experience, could provide an exponential advantage even against numerically or technically superior opponents. In the dense, humid jungles of Vietnam, the M16 transformed American soldiers from isolated riflemen into cohesive, mobile units capable of dominating the battlefield. Its story is more than a tale of engineering. It is a chronicle of ingenuity, adaptation, and the enduring principle that in warfare, the right tool, in the hands of prepared soldiers, can change history.